taking off for the first time in 1953, not long after the B-52 Stratofortress was officially launched. The Myasishchev M-4 surprised the Americans. They could not have imagined that the Soviet Union was capable of building such a long-range jet bomber. In the early 1950s, the VM Myasishchev Experimental Design Bureau (OKB-23), under the direction of Major General of Engineering Vladimir M. Myasishchev, began designing a four-engine jet strategic bomber. In 1954, the Myasishchev M-4, NATO reporting name Bison, made its first appearance at the 1954 Victory Day Parade, surprising the US and forcing it responded by building hundreds of Boeing B-47s and B-52s to counter this perceived threat. The first M-4 prototype, or Bison-A, flew on January 20, 1953, and was handed over to state acceptance trials in March 1954, with production beginning later that year. It entered service in 1955, with 34 being built, including 2 prototypes. It has a length of 47.2 meters, a wingspan of 50.5 meters, a height of 14.1 meters, an empty weight of 79.7 tons, and a maximum takeoff weight of 181.5 tons. The M-4 was made mostly of aircraft aluminum alloys with some steel and magnesium components. It had wings swept at 35 degrees and powered initially by 4 Michelin AM3A engines with a maximum thrust of 85.8 kN, but later upgraded to RD3M500 turbojets with a maximum thrust of 93.2 kN. There were 18 bladder fuel tanks in the fuselage and wings, providing a total fuel capacity of 123,600 liters. This gave the aircraft a range of 9,500 kilometers, equivalent to 5,900 miles. Although this fell short of the 12,000 kilometers range initially specified. It had a payload of 24 tons in various configurations. Defensive armament consisted of 6 AM-23 23mm cannons with a rate of fire of 1,250 rounds per minute each in a manned twin-tail turret with 400 rounds per gun, and 2 twin remote control turrets in the top and bottom fuselage with 300 rounds per gun each. The aircraft had a crew of 8, a navigator or bombardier in the nose, pilot and co-pilot in the cockpit, radar operator, flight engineer, radio operator, and dorsal turret gunner in a compartment behind the cockpit, and a tail gunner. Although the M-4 had less range than the Tupolev Tu-95, it had a greater speed and payload. Then Myasishchev began working area refueling with the 3M-1 version. The M-4s were never in combat, and none were converted for low-altitude attack like the American B-52s, and were never exported to Soviet allies. The aircraft was discontinued in 1963, by which time 93 had been built. Myasishchev strike bombers caused a real panic in America. After the launch of the M-4, the Americans assumed that the Soviet Union was capable of mass-producing new strategic bombers capable of reaching the United States. That was why the US military has significantly increased defense spending and built long-range aviation over a long period of time. However, the Americans' fears did not materialize. Despite improvements, the M-4s were never capable of hitting the United States. Production ended in the early 1960s. Most of the M-4s were scrapped, and some served as refueling aircraft until the mid-1990s. My video about the Myasishchev M-4 answer. Thank you for watching. If you find this video interesting, please give me your thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to support the channel. Goodbye and see you again in the next videos. Tạm biệt và hẹn gặp lại quý vị và các bạn trong các video tiếp theo.